Sam from Guitar Village here, and today we're checking out the brand new JTM Studio from Marshall Amps. We're going to plug a bunch of different guitars and pedals into it, see how this thing sounds, and we're going to talk about some of the features as well. Let's get started. Now, as you'll probably guess already looking at this thing, this is based on the original JTM 45 from the early 60s. They've tried to capture the styling exactly as one of those original ones were, all the way down to the knobs. We've got things like the fawn fret grill cloth with the gold piping, the black levant surrounding the edges, and crucially, we have these really old Marshall logos, which originally were actually supplied from a coffin supply store. So very cool, really looks the part. But I guess your question is, well, they've done it before, what's so cool about this reissue? Well, it's not really a normal reissue. So typically with a reissue, like they did with the Blues Breaker amps, is they took the old amp and then they just built a new version of it. The Studio range really aims to take that and shrink it down, making it more portable and also a bit lighter and a bit smaller too. Now, in terms of what we've got here on board, it's a 20-watt amp that also switches down to 5 watts as well. You've got two ECC83 preamp tubes in there, plus a third ECC83 phase splitter tube. From the power section, they've gone old school and gone for a pair of 5881s in there as well. So plenty of power to get 20 watts out of this thing, and I've been playing with this earlier, it is loud. So even if you run it, on the low mode, it's still got quite a bit of volume there, so it really breaks up nicely. Now, in terms of the controls, once again, we're looking pretty old school. We've got 4 inputs on there, which we patched together for this. You've got the high treble loudness, you've got the normal loudness, a 3-band EQ, so treble, middle and bass, and then a presence control, which kind of adjusts the overall feel of the amp, making it kind of either darker or brighter. On the back of the amp, we've got an effects loop, which is quite a new bonus, and a DI output as well. You can turn the effects loop on and off, and there's also 5 speaker out, so you can run things like a 16 ohm cab, which is the same as this 112 I've got here, or you can run a 1.8 or 2 16s, and a ton of different combinations in there. In terms of speakers, in this 112 cabinet, we've got a G12M65 Creamback, a classic pairing. They also offer a 212 cab, which is pretty much the same as this, but with 2 speakers in it and a slight slant on top. And they even do a combo version as well, for those of you who don't want to carry 2 things with you to a gig. Well, enough chat about it, let's have a play on it. Alright, so in terms of the build, these are actually made in Bletchley in England, which is very significant for Marshall amps. They've decided to do a finger joined cabinet on these. They have gone for a hand welded chassis, and they've hand soldered the pots and the valve bases, which means that, from Marshall, you're kind of reassured that you're going to get something that's going to last a long time and be built really well. So when you look at the original Marshall JTM 45, you see these great names come up. You've got people like Peter Green, Gary Moore, and so many others. And I think what they've done with this is they've taken that sound, they've made the amp smaller and more portable, but this is really going to appeal to those people who are after a clean to low gain crunch sound. It's not really designed for the high gain stuff. Although if you run a pedal, which we're going to do here in a sec, into it that's high gain, you can really push the front end of the amp and kind of get it searing nicely. So the Les Paul we've been using, this is a 58 from the custom shop. It's a reissue Les Paul with a VOS finish, and for those of you with a keen eye, you'll notice it's a plain top as well. This is fitted out with custom Bucker Alnico 3 pickups in there. New kind of thing they're trying, and they sound great. So most of the tones you've heard so far have been on this Les Paul, and for me that kind of pairing works really, really well. Les Paul, JTM 45, classic rock tone, sounds beautiful. But for those of you who want to use like a Strat, a Tele, 335, we've got those three usual suspects that we're going to have a look at now. Okay, so next up we're going to plug a Tele into the Marshall and see how it sounds. This particular one I've got is out the custom shop. It's a 61 reissue. We've got a twisted Tele in the neck position and an original Blackguard reissue pickup in the bridge position, and as we know, nothing rocks harder than the bridge pickup on a Tele. Okay, so we're going to jump back onto another Gibson. I've gone for a 335, real Clapton vibes going on here. It's a 64 reissue. It's actually got the same custom Bucker Alnico 3 pickups as the Les Paul, so it'll be interesting to see how this responds with the amp as well. Many classic tones have been made on a Strat going into a Marshall amp, so we've got to try this thing out. This is a custom shop 56 reissue with a slightly chunky neck, very nice to play, and it's got a trio of master design bone tone pickups in there. Now, for the eagle-eyed of you out there, you might have noticed that we've had the channels patched this whole time. So what that means is we're going into one channel and then we connect the other channel to it so we can run both these volumes and adjust them independently. So what that will do then is once you've got those connected, it means you can adjust both volumes independently to kind of sculpt and create different tones and push the front end of the amp a little bit harder as well. Okay, so with them patched together, we've got the volume set here, so we're getting this tone. So just on the edge of breakup. Now, if we turn the normal volume all the way down, kind of more just on the loudness, sorry, the high treble loudness volume. Now, put that back up again. Adds a little bit more girth. And with the high treble out, there's a lot of treble roll-off on there too. Now, if we undo the patch cable there, so now we're not getting any interaction from the normal channel. It's literally just the high treble. Much brighter, clearer kind of tone, but without some of the warmth you get from the normal channel. So patch your channels, people. So after spending a little bit of time with this amp, it's been really interesting understanding how the characteristics work with each of the guitars we were checking out. There was a bit of a difference between the 335 and the Les Paul, and hopefully you heard that as well. It was slightly more kind of percussive almost with the hollow body, sort of semi-hollow at least anyway. I think if you want to push the front end of the amp, you've got to go humbuckers, whereas with the Strat and Tele, with the exception a little bit of the bridge pickup on the Tele, I think there's definitely a softer, cleaner tone. Now, in terms of the build quality and, you know, the features on this amp, I think you've got a really, really nice amp that's going to offer you quite a lot. It's got a real range of versatile sounds. You can go from kind of low gain, you know, crunch type territory to a really nice clean, which kind of isn't something you would expect with a Marshall on most days. In terms of having different combinations with the speaker, I think it'd be really fun to try this thing out with the 412 or even with the 212 just to get a bit more air pushed. If you want to play, you know, loud, for example, with the band, you might find the 112 a little restricting compared to, you know, a combination of speakers. Having the high-low switch built into the standby switch is a really nice feature that I think a lot of people are going to appreciate. It's going to make a great recording amp as well, whether you go for the head and the cab or the combo. Either one is going to work fine. So I would say if you get a chance, try one of these out. I think you'll be surprised at how much tone shaping there is involved with this, because you can patch them, you know, you can mess around, you can blend the high treble and the normal volumes together. You're going to get something that really, really works on a lot of different levels. Now, in terms of the sounds we were getting from the pedals, I do miss having reverb on an amp. This doesn't have reverb in there, but we were chucking one of the Strymon flints in front, using some of the tremolo in some of the sections as well, and that really sounded great to my ears. I think what you'll get with that is having a reverb pedal. It gives you even more flexibility. We're using the Strymon Deco for pushing the front end of the amp, so it's set pretty clean on its sort of gain channel, if you like, and it was just pushing the front end of the amp into a little bit more overdrive, and we used a little bit of the delay on there too. For the high gain sounds, we were using the Marshall Shredmaster, which is an incredible pedal, again, with loads of tonescaping and, you know, kind of sounds you can create out of it as well. So if you get a chance, do try one of those out if you've never played one before. It's an iconic pedal and it's an absolute must. Okay, so if you want to find out any more about this amp or the other ones within the range, the links will be in the description below. Or if you want to find out any more about some of these gorgeous guitars and the pedals I was using, they will be in there too. As always, thanks for watching.